Hi guys, and welcome to the Bradford vs Sunderland match review, where Sunderland have just suffered a 2-1 defeat away from home in pre-season, a game in which we did use a bit of a mixed 11. However, the performance was still very, very disappointing in a few different ways. There was a couple of sort of glimmers of positivity that I will discuss. And again, I'm not going to go too overboard and go mental and just rip everyone a new one, because it is only pre-season at the end of the day, and there's a lot of new in parts, sort of, different combinations and partnerships in there that have never really worked with each other before. And a lot of these lads haven't probably not only just got used to each other, but got used to Regis Labree's systems and methods as of yet. So to try and just lob this 11 together and then just hope something to happen, it's probably wishful thinking. Whereas we've got another set of 11 players which are sort of considered our first 11. Of course, they're starting to get used to it a bit more, but these are just trying to get these a bit of game time. But either way, I'm going to sort of critique the performance or sort of discuss the performance and dissect it a little bit anyway. I won't go too overboard, as I say, but we'll get into it. So the starting 11, we did have, so we had Moore in goal. We had Pembele at right back with Johnson and Hjelde as the centre-back partnership. We had Anderson at left back. We had Rigg and Embleton in the middle. We had Mundell on the left-hand side. Abdullah on the right, of course, starting for his first game in pre-season since his injury. Then Al-Shish in behind Rusin. So as I did allude to and I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of combinations, a few players in there that haven't really seen any game time, or at least haven't played with each other before. So it does feel like it was just a sort of opportunity to just throw a load of players together that need a bit of game time and need a few minutes in the legs, and that was really it, and a good chance to get a good look at them. But we will get into it. So the opening sort of 15 minutes or so, it was all Bradford. I won't lie, it was all Bradford. There was a few little moments where I think Chris Rigg tries to get over the ball, little flashes of brilliance every now and then, but it was very, very few and far between. I'm not going to overdo it, but a couple of times he would get his foot on the ball, sort of turn his man and then ping it out wide to be it Abdullah or Mundell, but then he went very, very quiet for pretty much the remainder of the game. But I just thought I'd mention that. But then for 15 minutes, it was largely all Bradford, and there's some very, very good opportunities. One where it was so easy to cut through Johnson and Hjelde as well. It was largely Johnson that was getting dragged into the play a little bit, and he was getting sucked into it a little bit too easily, which would leave gaping holes in behind, and Hjelde attempting to cover. And Hjelde wasn't the best of defenders in the first place, which it made for a pretty scary combination, and that goes for pretty much the entirety of the game. But they managed to cut him behind. It literally took 2 or 3 little combination passes to easily beat Johnson and Pembele, who was horrific to say the least. But they managed to get him behind, and I think it may have been Cook who had the shot, and he really should have beat the keeper really. But Moore makes a good save down on his right hand side, and then they just had a plethora of long range opportunities that they didn't take. But then we managed to get the foot on the ball a little bit, and when we were getting forward, Abdullah Bar, almost every time he got the ball, he was getting pushed off it with ease, or he wouldn't know what to do. He would just go down under the tiniest of challenges and sort of rolling around like he'd just been shot with a sniper. Pembele, he was absolutely all over the place. I mean, defensively, he went missing several times, and then getting forward, what he'd do, he'd pick up good positions. So maybe an Abdullah Bar or a Chris Rigg or whoever would get the ball on the right hand side, he'd make a decent run on the right. Then he'd pick up the ball, and then it's like he becomes so lumbered. He looks brilliant getting up into said positions, but then he becomes so lumbered and so almost like it's I almost panics if that makes sense. He just doesn't want to. He's like, oh shit, I've got the ball in a dangerous position here. So he'll either just lash it towards goal aimlessly or towards the box aimlessly, or he'll go backwards. He don't really know what to do, or to run into trouble. But it always ends up in a negative almost every single time. But Mundell, as is pretty much the only saving grace of this entire performance, which I'll just probably get out of the way now, to be honest with you. Every time that lad got the ball, he was a live wire. He looked raw, he looked up for it, he looked so sharp, skinning plays for the fun of it. He'd have 3 Bradford players around him at sometimes. He'd cut inside easily, and again, drive us forward and then put it out wide. Pass when he sees an opportunity to put it out wide or try and slip someone in, or he'd go for goal himself. Wouldn't always pay off, but when there's not too much movement around him, or we don't have that sort of clinical striker around him to pick up certain positions, he's going to go for it himself. And he did, and he looked so dangerous, whereas everyone else looked way below par, and they looked way sort of under Bradford's quality, if that makes sense. They just didn't seem above them at all. But then they broke the deadlock, and again, it was poor defending. Hjeld's all over the place, Johnson's all over the place, and what I kept on seeing, and I don't want to feel like I'm digging Johnson out here, by the way, because I'm not. I just want to make a point here. Johnson, who was out on loan last season to Dundalk in Ireland, brilliant reviews. Apparently, did very well there. Of course, academy lads will want him to do well. Physically, when you look at him, he looks like the big brick shithouse that you'd like to see in a Sunderland shirt. But I don't think he was any better than any of the other poor defenders we had on tonight. But a lot of people, either online or even the commentary team tonight, I felt like they were trying to put everything negative he did. They almost tried to put a negative twist on it, and it was a little bit of bias. If Hjelde or Pembele or Anderson would play a poor pass, it'd go straight out of play. But then if Johnson would do it, it would be, I was trying to be positive there. Do you know what I mean? Or at least he tried the positive pass there. But he was constantly losing the ball. He was constantly getting caught out of play. Couple of decent challenges. Don't get me wrong, there were a couple of decent little challenges where he'd step in. But he was stepping in far too often. I don't know whether he's been asked to do that. Usually the right back does that. We saw it at Blackpool with Alan Brown. Hume was stepping in, and then Brown had to kind of take over on the right-hand side, and we saw that. But Johnson was getting sucked into the play so easily, and then every time Bradford were on the break, all they did was bump it forward, and Johnson was nowhere to be seen. Then Hjelde, as I say, he's looking around, he doesn't know where to go because he got Bradford players left and right, and Johnson is slowly jogging back from the halfway line, and he was caught out several times. So I just don't want people, I just felt like there was a lot of bias going on. And again, if you've followed me for a while, you've been subscribed for a while, if someone who I'm a big fan of does poorly, I'll say he played poorly. If someone who I'm not usually a fan of does really well, I'll still say he played well. I'll just say it as it is, or how I believe it to be, or how I've seen it. I'm not going to twist the tale to sort of service my narrative, if that makes sense, or a narrative I want to play. I just don't think he was any better than anyone else. In my opinion, but they did break the deadlock after some poor defending, and they made it 2 as well. It was a cracking finish, but again, defending all over the place. Pembele's nowhere to be seen. It's a great finish where they hit it from distance into the bottom corner. It comes off the post. But yeah, very poor defending. Every time they went forward, they seemed to have acres of space everywhere. The defence was just a mess. But what was almost as disappointing as that is, you have Embleton in midfield, you have Rigg in midfield, and neither of them had the ability to just get hold of the ball, and all it took was 1 or 2 passes to completely get by them, and the same with our defence. And the only shining light, as I keep on saying, was Mundle. He was just driving us up the pitch single-handedly. Every time he got it, he looked so sharp, and every other player for me seemed way off the pace. Other than Alshish maybe had a couple of quality moments here and there where he had a first time strike that just fizzed way just past the post. Little quality moments every now and then where he'd drag it around the player and he'd play it out wide, but they were very few and far between. So I'm just trying to be brutally honest here. But then the second half came out after, again, a very poor first half performance. And Mundle eventually does get his goal back, and it was an outstanding goal as well. They rang the changes round Bradford, so that might be why. And they got caught just a ball over the top. Their right back was way out of play, almost replicating Pembele's performance as our right back. But he's through, but he still has loads to do, and he drives on the left-hand side, drives into the area, so direct, cuts in from left to right. He sends 2 defenders and then puts it into the bottom right-hand corner. It's a lovely finish to make it 2-1. And we start to pick up the tempo a little bit in our passages of play because it was very pedestrian up until that point. However, still Bradford had so many opportunities. I'm not going to shy away from that. Every time they put the ball in the box, there was a free header. Every time it was a joke. It was schoolboy defending from every single one of them. And even when they eventually brought Johnson off, Barkham off as well, and they brought Mundle moved on to the right hand side, and we brought Watson on, put him on the left hand side. We brought Crompton on, who I was very excited to see because I saw him early in pre-season, and I thought he was very good. But he made an error almost immediately, passing the ball straight to a Bradford man, and then they nearly beat the keeper. Luckily for us, they didn't. But yeah, every time they put the ball in the box, it was like a scramble for our lives. We just looked terrible, disorganised, and I didn't really see what we were trying to attempt. Again, as I said, I don't want to think too much into it because it's very much pre-season. It was clearly just a case of a load of lads who haven't got too much game time, or who are definitely not seen as our starting 11, just needed minutes in the legs. But from that, we were way off. And I think the scary thing, again, and I need to reiterate this a lot and repeat myself a lot, it is just pre-season, but a lot of these lads just look way off it. And when we think we need, strength in depth, and if you think we get one or two injuries or a few injuries in the first team squad, which we do generally get and we're already picking up, I can't see any of these lads other than Mundle. Obviously Rig, Rig, who, again, I'm not going to shy away. Again, I really like Rig. I think he's an outstanding young player with loads of potential, but he didn't really stand out tonight too much, other than the sort of 15 minutes in the first half, where every now and then he would sort of pop up and he would shine a little bit. But other than that, I feel like he just sank in with the rest of them. I think there was only really Mundle and Rig there that probably looked like they'd even push for the first team, if I'm totally honest with you, because everyone else, they look horrendous, really, really pouring off the pace. But yeah, again, it sounds like I'm kind of contradicting myself, saying I'm not thinking too much into it, but then I'm slating him. But it's just what I saw in those 90 minutes, and they saw it out. 2-1 win, fair play to them. They just looked more up for it. They were more physical, and we weren't, and we just couldn't deal with that at all. And defensively, it was shocking. I'll be very interested to see what Rodgers has to say after this game, because I can't imagine he'll be happy with what he's seen tonight. But anyway, again, it was our second string and it wasn't good enough. But Mundle for me looked absolutely outstanding and gets my man of the match. And I'm very, very excited to see, because for him to look as exciting as he did within such a poor performing side, it says a lot. So to maybe stick him in a starting 11 for our first team and playing with that kind of confidence, I'm very excited to see how he progresses this season. But of course, anyway, we're back in Bradford anyway this weekend, playing Marseille again. We're back in Bradford again, playing Marseille this weekend, which should be a very interesting one. I think I'm working on that day, but I will try and get a review out the following day on the Sunday. But of course, if there are any reports with transfers, ingoings, or incoming, should I say, and outgoings, I will try and report on those as well. But that is everything, guys. What did you guys think of the performance? Let me know. Do you agree with me, disagree with me with anything I said? Again, let me know, as long as we're all nice about it in the comments. I don't mind. But if you have enjoyed, hit the like button for me. It's massively appreciated. And subscribe. There's still so many of you guys. There's like 70% of you guys that are watching these videos regularly and aren't yet subscribed. So please do if you're not already. But for now, take care. Good night. Stay jammy.